Hello and welcome to the Game Day podcast from talkSPORT with me, Alex CROOK. No Sam this week, so I've got my boot room buddy, the former Crystal Palace and Newcastle midfielder, DARREN AMBROSE, alongside me. Also on the weekend, Arsenal cement a 5-point lead at the top of the Premier League. We've drafted in a former Gunner, ADRIAN, CLARKE, to join the party. Coming up, Tony stuns City at the Etihad and sends a message to Gareth Southgate. Spurs do it the hard way again, and Everton get thrashed by Bournemouth for the second time in a week. This is the Game Day podcast from talkSPORT. Yes, a very warm welcome to DARREN AMBROSE and ADRIAN, CLARKE. Guys, just give us your highlight of what's been a brilliant final weekend before the World Cup break.
Well, highlight for me is seeing Arsenal stretch their lead at the top to 5 points. It was a real unexpected bonus ahead of kickoff for Manchester City to drop points at Brentford. That has to be the result of the weekend, doesn't it? Goodness me, Brentford hadn't won away from home in the Premier League all season. Everybody was thinking that was going to be a comprehensive home win. So that's the beauty of the Premier League. You never can guarantee a result. So to see Brentford turn City over and then Arsenal do the business, that was definitely my own personal highlight.
Yeah, I mean, Brentford, obviously, fantastic result. Ivan Toney, brilliant to score the 2 goals, having been left out the World Cup squad. The Arsenal result was probably the low light for me this weekend. However, I'm going to have to add Spurs. You know, they turn up once again in the second half, and a fantastic comeback again. We see it against Bournemouth where they won 3-2. And we've seen it again where they've won 4-3. 10 minutes ago, I'm thinking, frustrating being a Spurs supporter. 10 minutes later, absolutely brilliant. Love being a Spurs supporter.
Well, no surprise, my highlight came in stoppage time in the very last game of the weekend. Alejandro Garnacho, remember the name, what a moment for him and what a big goal that could be for Manchester United. And as I say, it topped off what was a fantastic last weekend before we all head to Qatar. Fulham 1, Manchester United 2. Now, let's not pretend this was a vintage Manchester United performance. They took an early lead courtesy of Christian Eriksen's first goal for the club. Then they got absolutely battered by Fulham. David De Gea once again with a couple of excellent saves after the home side had got back on level terms. But what a finish, ADRIAN, CLARKE, from Garnacho. What pressure on the shoulders of the young man. And my word, did he deliver.
It was a great moment, I've got to say, especially for Manchester United fans. But I always like to see youngsters burst onto the scene. And that's what we're witnessing at the moment with Garnacho. I'll tell you who he reminded me of as he exploded inside De Cordova-Reid. It reminded me of Giggsy back in the day, that explosive turn of pace and really calm finish coming in off the left-hand side. I think that was a real classy moment. And when I look at young players, teenagers in particular, you look for what they're like in those moments that matter. When the chances fall their way, when they've got to pick the right pass. And even though we've only seen him in glimpses so far, he seems to have that ingredient where he can stay calm and make the right decision in those key moments. So he looks a real prospect. I mean, that's why Bukayo Saka is enjoying the career he's enjoying, because he did the same thing. I can see Garnacho following suit and being one of the Premier League's top young players.
You know what, Crookie, as well? De Cordova-Reid is not slow, by the way. He's a fast player. And I don't even know how Garnacho did it. He seemed to be running at full pelt. And the last 5 yards sped up again. He found that extra bit of pace. I think he's been an absolute fantastic last few games. Obviously, Aston Villa in midweek came on, changed the game. Fantastic assist. And then to see what he done today, soon as he came on, soon as he got the ball, he drives at the defenders. Should have probably won a penalty. We discussed this on the boot room on Sunday night, Crookie. He should have won the penalty. But then he found a way to win the game for Manchester United. And listen, he seems to have had these so-called attitude problems, been called out a couple of times. It seems to have worked. Something's clicked in his head and he is really producing special moments. For me, he's the next big thing to come out of Manchester United, 100%.
No Cristiano Ronaldo in the matchday squad, ADRIAN. Was he genuinely ill, do you believe, or was he simply resting up to make sure that he was fit for what could be his final World Cup campaign?
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, it's a strange weekend all round, isn't it? With everyone on edge, just hoping not to make things worse. We saw Granit Xhaka come off with illness. James Maddison come off very early in the game, didn't want to take any chances. I think it's understandable to if you're not feeling 100% to skip this weekend. So look, who knows what the truth is, but United didn't need him, did they, in the end? And I did think that they were getting worse actually in the game. So it was a pretty good first half, I thought, from United, and then they tailed off. And that substitution was a bit weird, wasn't it? When Elanga came off and the McTominay came on, it didn't really improve it. So Garnacho got United and maybe even Ten Hag a little bit out of jail in that second half. But it was a cracking moment, real drama. And it was a good way for the Premier League to sort of hit that pause button, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it could be a big result come the end of the season because it just keeps United on the coattails of the top four. If they didn't win the game, they'd have had a long 5 weeks to sort of lick their wounds and work out what went wrong. Fulham, I think, deserve tremendous credit. They gave a really good account of themselves once again this season. They're 9th heading into the World Cup break. I think their fans would have taken that at the start of the campaign. And they do look a lot more at home in the Premier League, Darren Ambrose, this time around than probably in each of their last 2 Premier League campaigns.
They absolutely do, you're right. And obviously Mitrovic, who was missing, I think if he was playing, I think there'd have been a different result. I think maybe Fulham would have come away with the 3 points, at least a point for that matter. When you're playing Manchester City and you're playing Manchester United and you're coming away disappointed not to get something out of the game, shows how far and how well you're doing in the Premier League. And I think also when the goalkeeper, David De Gea, is potentially man of the match, shows how well you've played in the game. It's disappointing. They've been frustrated that on the night to concede in the last kick of the game. But credit to Fulham. They deserve something out of the game and they can really build on that. I don't think they'll go into the World Cup too disappointed. 9th in the Premier League when you're one of the favourites to go down in most people's eyes. It's a fantastic achievement. And
I think they bounced back pretty well from that lame effort really at the Etihad with 10 men. They really took the game to United. I think they can, like you say, go break for the World Cup on a little bit of a high. I do feel for them when they've not got Mitrovic. It is a big old downgrade, isn't it, for Vinicius? I don't want to hammer him too much, but there's a huge gulf, I think, in quality between those two. And I'm with Daz there. If Mitrovic played in this game, I think Fulham might have got something out of it.
Well, there was a golfing quality down on the Sussex coast as well, where it finished Brighton 1, Aston Villa 2. Brighton took the lead inside 50 seconds in this game. Alexis McAllister capitalising on a mistake from his Argentina teammate, Emi Martinez. But after that, Villa really deserved their victory. 2 goals from Danny Ings, the first from a penalty spot after a clumsy challenge from Lewis Dunk to upend John McGinn. The second via a deflection. Darren Ambrose, we commentated this game for talkSPORT's overseas broadcast service, and I think we both felt that Villa under Unai Emery look a different beast to where they were under Steven Gerrard.
Absolutely. Under Steven Gerrard, I feel conceding so early in the game, I think they would have crumbled. They'd have probably been 2 or 3-0 down at half time. And it's not against Steven Gerrard or the players, but something just wasn't clicking between those two. But Unai Emery didn't panic. The players didn't panic. They conceded extremely early in the game, as you said, 50 seconds in. They continued their game plan, continued to try and play out from the back, even though it went wrong with Emi Martinez trying to find Douglas Luiz. But they continued what they have obviously been trying on the training ground and deservedly got back in the game. I'm going to say I do feel Brighton deserved a penalty. I think Luca Dean cleaned out Solly March in the second half. VAR had a look at it and said no, there wasn't enough to overturn it. But I felt potentially it could have ended in a draw. But Unai Emery, 2-2 now. Fantastic return to the Premier League for him.
Adrian, you saw Unai Emery at Arsenal. I think maybe actually he's a bit harshly maligned. I think he does a better job. He did a better job there than maybe Arsenal fans were giving credit for. He's won 9 trophies since 2014. Obviously became a specialist in winning the Europa League. Are you surprised that he's adapted so quickly to this Aston Villa squad, or is that a mark of just how good a manager he is?
He knows his way around the technical area, doesn't he, Unai Emery? I don't think we should be surprised looking at his CV. He's had experience in the Premier League, so he knows what it's all about. What I would say is that I'm slightly surprised how quickly Villa have looked different. They look different. Obviously, the shape of the side has changed a little bit with that narrow midfield four. They're so much more aggressive. And I think that's great for them. They needed that. And Unai Emery's teams, and the reason I don't think it worked at Arsenal is that Arsenal fans want their team to play pretty football and control matches via possession. Unai Emery's always been at his best as an underdog with a team that maybe doesn't have to have that much possession. That it's all about winning the turnovers, pressing, winning the turnovers, and hitting teams hard and fast. And I think that in that regard, he's quite well suited to Aston Villa, and that's obviously how they won the game from a turnover in this one. So yeah, great start. I think they've got a lot to do defensively. They've got to work on passing out from the back. You'll have seen that in the game. They're a little bit iffy, aren't they? Not wholly confident, and they're having to absorb a lot of pressure. And at the moment, Mings and Konsa are doing it. But I think if they're asked to do too much, I'm not sure whether they're good enough to sort of hold the very best at bay. I was looking at the cross count because they've been so narrow and so defensive, Villa, in these two games. United had 23 crosses against them. Brighton had 27. So they're letting teams have it out wide, and they're backing those two centre halves to win their duels. It won't happen every week.
Yeah, Ezri Konsa, for me, was a contender for man of the match and probably backs up what you were saying. In terms of Brighton, if they'd have won that game, they would have been in the top 6 at Christmas. They've never managed that before in the top flight. How do you rate, Darren, the job that Roberto De Zerbi has done there? We heard an exclusive chat from him on the Boot Room on Sunday night.
I think he's done a great job. Obviously, come from what happened to him at Shakhtar, I think he's really turned his life around, really. You know, it was a horrible ordeal he had to deal with out there, and to come to the Premier League shows absolute brilliant ambition. Difficult start, difficult run of fixtures, lost the first few, we know that, but he's really turned it around. I think he'll be disappointed today, and he showed his frustration on the sideline, picking up a yellow card as well. I just feel he will do very well. He's come into a job where Graham Potter has been fantastic for Brighton. So it's always difficult to follow a manager of that ilk at a football club. But he's really stamped his mark now. And I think they'll only progress under De Zerbi. He shows he knows his way around the Premier League already. And it's a great sign for Brighton supporters.
Right, that's the story of Sunday. Let's get to Saturday. 23 goals on a thrilling day in the Premier League, including 3 at the Etihad. Live, only on talkSPORT. Manchester City 1, Brentford 2. Surely one of the surprise scorelines of this season, of any Premier League season. Ivan Toney, tone deaf, was the headline on the back page of The Sun on Sunday morning. That iconic image of him with both fingers in his ears, having scored twice to silence his doubters, to silence Gareth Southgate. That was a clear message, Adrian Clarke, wasn't it, to the England manager after leaving him out of the squad for Qatar?
Well, it's a perfect response, wasn't it? It was, yeah. He was very cool in the moments that mattered. He was the game's star man. It was all about Ivan Toney, wasn't it? Manchester City couldn't really handle him throughout the game. So yeah, what a response! Was he going to sulk? Was he going to sort of just mope around the pitch? No, he did the exact opposite. He said, "No, this is my stage. I'm going to own this game." And I think a lot of people around the country were delighted to see what he did. So yeah, well played, Ivan Toney. And who knows? Somebody might get a knock, an injury between now and the start of the World Cup. And because he's been so brilliant this weekend, he's got to be the next in line, hasn't he, for Gareth Southgate? So yeah, he's done his chances no harm of being that standby guy. But yeah, it was just great all round, wasn't it, from Brentford. I thought their tactics were superb. Thomas Frank nailed it. I wrote a piece for the Premier League ahead of the game about City's pressing, because they've won so many high turnovers this season. And I suggested in that piece they should just boom it, really. Just go long, because they've got one of the best target men in the division, if not the best. And that's what they did. They didn't really try and mess around with it at the back. They just launched it, didn't they? And they did they asked City's midfielders basically to run back towards their own goal. And they don't want to do that. And that was the problem, wasn't it? From those second balls, Man City were hopeless. So, yeah, it was a fantastic day for Brentford.
There's your headline, hopeless Manchester City. I'm sure producer Jeremy is noting that down as we speak. But it's easy to say when we sit here with City 5 points adrift of Arsenal at the top of the table. But I don't think they've been to beat Manchester City. I think they dropped points at Aston Villa, which took some doing when Steven Gerrard was in charge. Have we hyped up this Manchester City team a little bit too much, Darren?
I don't think so, no. Also, by the way, breaking news, Thomas Frank reads Adrian Clarke's piece in the papers and obviously goes with his instructions because it clearly worked. I don't think we've hyped him up too much. I think people are questioning if you keep Haaland quiet, you keep Manchester City quiet. And at the moment, it looks like that's the case. Pep Guardiola come out after the game and said, Brentford were the better side. I don't think they were. I don't think they were the better side. I think the stats suggest in terms, I think 75% possession, Man City, nearly 30 shots. The key stat for me, apart from the goals though, I think 29 shots Manchester City had, 6 on target, to Brentford's 10 shots, 8 on target. That's a fantastic success rate in terms of attacking threats. And Ivan Toney, it had to be him. He nearly got, and I think everyone, bar Manchester City supporters, was probably willing for him to score his hat-trick in the end because it was a brilliant performance, brilliant display. He has to feel hard done by not being in the squad. For me, I'd have taken him and Callum Wilson. I think I'd have probably risked that. I'd have got rid of one of the defenders potentially, and I'd have taken both the forwards. So it was a fantastic result. I do think Manchester City were the better side, but you can't take nothing away from Brentford.
Yeah, I don't think we're overhyping City, Alex. I really don't. I mean, they're top of all the metrics. They are a sensational team. But I do think
they're not top of the table.
They've always got... Yeah, well, they're not, but they are the best team. I think we all know that. But if you can get out of your own half, it sounds ridiculous, but if you can get out of your own half and test their back four, they're not brilliant. They are fallible. On occasion, you can unsettle them. I don't think Aymeric Laporte is having a very good season, particularly. I don't think Cancelo's been as good defensively. They've not got Kyle Walker, so they're using Stones at right back. That's not perfect. The problem is most teams can't get into the final third to hurt City. If you can, like Brentford did, you can score goals and you can upset the odds. But you've got to be ruthless, as Darren pointed out there. 8 shots on target from 10. That's different class.
Well, you can't say Arsenal weren't ruthless. They beat Wolverhampton Wanderers by 2-0 at Molineux. It was live on talkSPORT, and it cemented the Gunners as the Christmas #1 in the Premier League for this season. So tell me, Adrian Clarke, because I know you spend a lot of time in that particular part of North London. You've got a lot of connections to your former club. Why are Arsenal fans refusing to admit that their team are in a title race this season?
Just playing it down. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, because the bottom line is, and I think we all know this deep down, the bottom line is when players get injured from Mikel Arteta's first choice 11, that is when the problems will start. If Arsenal lose Thomas Partey to an injury or suspension, or Gabriel Jesus or William Saliba, Bukayo Saka, these guys, then the ones who are on, in reserve aren't quite at the same level. Cities are. That is the difference. That is the key difference. But if somehow Arsenal can miraculously keep all 11 of Mikel Arteta's favourites fit and healthy for the entire season, they've got a chance. But when does that ever happen, really?
Crookie, come on. We need to stop playing this down. Adrian, we need to stop playing this down. Man, Arsenal are in a title challenge. I said this on the boot room. I want to put some pressure back onto Arsenal. They're not going away, and it's frustrating me as a Spurs supporter. They're answering every question thrown at them. People are saying they've not played anyone. They play big teams, they win. People are saying they've got a massive fixture pile up. 9 games in however many days. They only lost to PSV in the Europa League after making numerous changes. They're winning everything else. They're drawing against Southampton when they could have lost that game last season. They're beating Leeds where they could have lost that and should have lost that. Last season they would have done. They're 5 points clear in the Premier League. Yet everyone is still saying, oh, is anyone going to catch Manchester City this season? They're 5 points behind Arsenal. They're going into Christmas, albeit it's unprecedented. They're probably 6-7 games behind where they'd be in a normal season. They're going into Christmas top of the league. They're full of confidence. Needs backing in January, though, because last season he didn't get backed. They fell off it a little bit, and that ultimately probably cost them the top 4. They need to be backed. Mikel Arteta needs to be backed in January. Let's repeat this again. Arsenal are in a title challenge.
He still won't say it. He still won't say it. Gabriel Jesus, I think we all felt that he could be a transformative signing for Arsenal. I think he has been with the way that he leads from the front. He brings that winning desire, that hunger to the dressing room. It was another game, though, Adrian, where he didn't manage to find the back of the net. That drought is getting bigger by the week. When does that start to become a concern?
Well, I think it's already a thing, isn't it? Everyone's talking about it. I think he's feeling the heat to some degree, but because everybody else is sort of sharing the goals around it, it hasn't cost the team, has it? So, yeah, I mean, strikers. I mean, Darren's played with so many strikers down the years, as have I. Strikers are only ever really happy when they're scoring. They can be grumpy so-and-so, can't they, Darren, when they're not in the goal. So he's not going to be buzzing just because he's playing well. He's going to be very frustrated. But that is the strength of Arsenal. I've played them down in terms of the strength in depth. But what they do have that no one else has at the moment is a breadth of players that are contributing all the time. I think they're the only team that have got 5 players that have created over 20 chances this season. That front 5 have all created, I think, between 20 and 27 chances. I mean, there's like 2 or 3 in it between all of them. You can look at the goal count. It's the same 5 people, all scoring multiple goals. No one's gone beyond 6, but it hasn't mattered because they're all chipping in. So that is one of the main strengths of Arsenal at the moment. And yeah, long may that continue.
Quick word on Wolves, Darren. Lopetegui watching from the stands. They are bottom. They will be bottom at Christmas, which is never a great omen. As you say, it's come slightly earlier this year, so maybe not as concerning as in previous campaigns. Can he keep them up? How big a challenge is that for the former Spain and Real Madrid coach?
I think if any team needs a new manager bounce, it's Wolves. Obviously, it's going to come after Christmas, the first few games in the Premier League. They need something done. Crookie, Adrian, I think they're in trouble, Wolves. I really do. I think last season,
they
were edging to... Exactly. They were edging towards that way when Raul Jimenez got injured. When he's not playing, they can't score. And that's the issue. They've got fantastic players. They're creating chances against Arsenal. Just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. And that's what you need to win games. I think they're in a bit of trouble this season. I hope he can come in and have a new manager bounce and get them clear of it. I just can't see it.
Yeah, it's going to be a big second half of the season for Wolves. Big transfer window as well. How big a second half of the season will it be for Darren Ambrose's beloved Tottenham? Another thriller at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Once again, they started badly. Once again, Tottenham fell behind. Once again, Antonio Conte found a way to win. This one was live on talkSPORT as well. It finished Spurs 4, Leeds 3. Adrian Clarke, from an Arsenal man, is this genius from Antonio Conte that they keep falling behind and his team keep finding a way to win, or are they just really, really, really lucky?
You're stitching me up either way there, aren't you? I'd say they've been a little bit fortunate, but they'll say they've got great character and that they've got this fighting spirit and they keep going to the end and they've got this amazing belief. So, yeah, you could say it's been a bit fortunate, but you've got to put the ball in the back of the net. And Bentancur did it late on. I think Kulusevski was the main man here, wasn't he? I mean, that assist for the last goal I thought was brilliant. Not happy with Robin Koch's contribution towards that. That was one of the lamest attempts at a tackle I've seen in a long time.
Go on, Darren Ambrose. I know you can't wait once again to have a pop at our own Jamie O'Hara. He was still seething on the game day phone-in about the Tottenham performance despite the victory. And you're not happy with this narrative, are you? That Tottenham are a bit rubbish, really?
Well, I understand where it's come from. I know first half, for some reason, Spurs don't seem to show up. And it's not a game plan. Harry Kane's come out and said he doesn't understand why. And I tell you, if the second half of the season is anything to go by in terms of the matches, now they turn up in the second half of games, it's going to be a brilliant second half to the season. And they're going to fly up the table and stay in the top four. I'm not happy with the narrative around Antonio Conte and how Spurs somehow are lucky to have him as a manager. And as soon as they go a goal down or they lose a game, it's Antonio Conte is going to leave. It's like, and when they win and you see the passion he shows on the sideline, it's, oh, he loves the club. You need to have a balance, you know. No, he's not come out and said he's going to leave. If he does, by all means, people need to phone up talkSPORT, do what they have to do and give him some stick. Just let him be. Let him do he's working miracles at the moment. Let's be honest. You look at some of the defenders. He's a defensive manager, Antonio Conte, and you look at some of the defenders we've got in the team. The only question mark I have over Antonio Conte is why he continues to play Emerson Royal. And I hate digging out players. Like Adrian said earlier, I hate digging out players. But sometimes the players need to have a moment out the team and maybe play Jed Spence. He can't be any worse. Davinson Sanchez, but he shouldn't be near a potential top four back line. He needs to get to January. The last January window, he signed Kulusevski, Bentancur, absolutely magnificent signings. If he can produce a couple or two or three players like that this window in a defensive side, there's no issues going forward. It's the defensive side that needs improving, and it would be exciting. He just needs the time, needs the players.
But give him better defenders, and Spurs have got a real team, because that is the weak link. You look at them, Longley not great, Emerson Royal, I mean, for the first goal, so lazy in terms of his positioning, no real desire to get back and cover. He is a liability.
And a goalkeeper. Lloris has been a great servant for the football club. We know that. But again, he's coming to the end of his career, in my opinion, for Spurs. And I think we need to improve.
I agree.
The last goal, the Leeds' third goal, I think he should have done better. His positioning was all wrong, in my opinion. I'm not a goalkeeper, but just look, he was too near the front post. And, you know, it was easily just placed into the far post. I think we need basically a whole new back line, a new goalkeeper. And like you said, will be a great force to be reckoned with.
This should be Hugo Lloris's last season, shouldn't it? Really, as captain, as first choice goalkeeper. If Antonio Conte is ruthless and wants to act for the best interest of the team, I am with you. Actually, I think there's been a bit of a decline over the last few years, and they won't make a change in January. I think that would be too brutal, wouldn't it? I think in goal, but I think this summer they'll change it.
I mean, if you think Tottenham are bad defensively, what about Leeds? Now, our producer tonight, Jeremy, is a massive Leeds fan. He's given me some bullet points to talk about when it comes to this game. And it says in capital letters, so he's screaming at me, they are a defensive shambles. Liam Cooper struggling, says our resident Leeds fan. I mean, it is a concern, isn't it, Adrian, that Leeds just look far too open to conceding goals.
Yeah, I think we all agreed there that Spurs need a whole new defence. I think the same does apply to Leeds United. I mean, who would you keep? If you ask Leeds fans, like, who do you want as first choice next season out of your current back four? I don't think they'd choose any of them. So, I think they need to invest in that side of things. They were all over the place in this game. It's all still a little bit wild, isn't it, with Leeds? I do like their spirit. I love the dynamism that the manager brings, and there's a real attacking bravery. But there's not much structure to the team. The positional discipline of the team is poor. Being a manager, it's great to win at Anfield. Brilliant. They had that moment, but to be a good manager, you've got to work on all aspects of your team's play. And I think it seems from the outside looking in that he's working much harder with the attacking players and putting more effort into that than he is with the defenders.
I'll tell you who don't need new defenders. Newcastle United. They beat Chelsea by 1-0. They have the meanest defence in the Premier League heading into this World Cup break. And I think the biggest compliment you can pay Newcastle, Darren, one of your former clubs, I know you think they're title contenders, let alone top four contenders, but we weren't surprised they beat Chelsea by 1-0. I think we'd have been surprised if they lost.
Yeah, of course. I think that's a little bit part of how Chelsea are playing this season as well. But Newcastle seem to be going to the so-called perceived big clubs and making them look average. And they've done that to Chelsea. They've done that to Tottenham at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Got a draw at Old Trafford where they probably would have lost. Their only defeat, remember, was Liverpool in the 98th minute. Question marks over why there was that long and the time wasting situation. That's another story. The teams that are so supposed to be in and around them, I've got a list of them here. Fulham 4-1 they beat. Brentford 5-1 they beat. Aston Villa 4-0 they beat. Southampton 4-1. They're demolishing teams in and around them. The World Cup is coming up. A lot of their superstar players, their better players, are not going to the World Cup. Sven Botman, Almiron, Saint-Maximin, players like that, they're not even going to the World Cup. Isak is going to have that time to recover and get his fitness back. They've got, I think, Leicester on Boxing Day, and then they play Leeds. 2 winnable games for Newcastle before they go into January. If they're sitting in 3rd or 4th in the top 4 in January, they are going to invest. They're going to back Eddie Howe, and players are going to want to be part of this project. I'm telling you now, for a financial point of view, as well as there's a chance to get Champions League. And that's why I say they're in for a slight chance. I'm not going to say they're going to oust Manchester City or Arsenal, but they're in for a slim chance of competing for the number 1 spot.
I guess, Adrian, what we know about Newcastle with the wealth they have now is if they are in a title race come January, and Darren Ambrose certainly believes they are, they have the ability to go out and invest in the squad. That comes with risk attached. Maybe it risks upsetting the harmony in the dressing room. How would you expect the owners and Eddie Howe to approach the upcoming January transfer window?
I think that's a really interesting question, actually, because, yeah, they've got the finances to go out and bring superstars in, but would that ruin what they've got? So I think I would go on the same path that they've gone on so far in terms of not going too crazy, getting those players in that aren't the superstars, but they're rising stars. And I think they're looking at young, talented players that will really listen to Eddie Howe and take on board what he's asking them to do, because his coaching has been fantastic. He's improving all the players. So, yeah, he's the right coach for emerging players to work with, it feels like. So, yeah, really exciting time for Newcastle. Wow, it is amazing. I was looking at the fixture list, chaps. They've still got Arsenal at home. Well, they've got Arsenal home and away, but they've got at St James's Park, Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool and Manchester United. They've had a lot of tough Big 6 away games, not so many at St James's Park, which has been, a horrible place to go, hasn't it? So, yeah, it's amazing. And stylistically, I just love, it's refreshing to see a Newcastle team pinning teams in, isn't it? They used to be 5-4-1, come and attack us, we'll break on you once a half. I mean, now they're taking the fight to teams. They're joint top with Man City for high turnovers this season, or they were ahead of this weekend. I mean, Newcastle didn't get a turnover inside the final third for about 3 months under Steve Bruce, I'd imagine. So it's amazing, really, the turnaround. And they're doing it at the moment without Isak and without Alan Saint-Maximin as well. You know, the two sort of golden boys of the club. So, it's remarkable. The top 4 is achievable. I'm not saying they're getting it, but it's achievable.
Newcastle and Arsenal, probably the 2 teams who want this World Cup break the least in terms of the momentum they've built up. Graham Potter and Chelsea might be the manager and the club who need it the most, because it's 5 games without a win now for Chelsea. I thought Armando Broja really struggled in the game at St James's Park. I still don't really know what they're trying to do with the team selection. I don't know where the goals are coming from. I think Raheem Sterling has been a massively underwhelming signing, which is a worry as far as England are concerned. How concerned will Chelsea fans be, Darren Ambrose, about the fact they just seem to have lost all semblance of any kind of form?
Yeah, extremely concerned, I feel. I do feel they'll give Graham Potter a chance, and I think they are showing that. With the previous regime, I think Graham Potter would be under pressure already. We don't know how the new owners are going to react to dips in form like this. I do feel they'll give him the transfer window, they'll give him the summer, at least this season, of course. But You know, he's trying to put a philosophy and the style of play that he had at Brighton with players that probably are not used to this and probably not good enough to play this way. Whereas I'm not saying they're worse players than Brighton, but Brighton, they were so regimented in playing this way. They knew exactly what Graham Potter wanted. He needs to install this into the Chelsea side. January, I've no doubt he's going to make signings. I think if you look yesterday, Mason Mount, Brozier and Conor Gallagher as the front three. I mean, that's not going to put fear into a lot of defenders, the front three like that. And as harsh as that sounds, they're all good players, but that's not a Chelsea front three. Aubameyang, I don't think was the right signing at the right time. They need a big, strong, good centre forward that's really going to put fear into teams. You've always had that with Chelsea. Look back to Didier Drogba days. They've always put fear into teams. At the moment, they're not. And it's been a little bit poor for Graham Potter, and he's probably scratching his head as to what's going wrong.
Liverpool 3, Southampton 1. Darwin Núñez scored twice for Liverpool. A baptism of fire. It was always going to be for Nathan Jones. We'll get Adrian's view on his appointment in a moment, because I know he's someone that you've played with and know reasonably well. How important a win was it, Darren, for Liverpool? And is Darwin Núñez finally finding his feet in the Premier League? Because he went off the boil, didn't he, after that red card earlier in the season?
He did a little bit, yeah. But, I mean, he's got 5 goals in 10 games, 1 in 2 for a new young striker in the Premier League. That's not bad. That's not a bad return. I just think the form and the emergence of Erling Haaland has put a whole new meaning of how well you start in the Premier League. If it wasn't for Haaland, people would be saying, you know what, Núñez is doing quite well. 1 in 2 in the Premier League. Showed some great ability yesterday. He's fast, he's strong, he's powerful. He puts fears into defenders, by the way. You talk about a Chelsea needing a forward like that. He does, and made a slight mistake with Joachim Andersen at Palace, and he got caught up into that. Looks like he's learned from that as well. They needed this win to stay in touch, but they could have lost as well, by the way, or drew. Southampton had some amazing chances at the end, and you know they done well to keep the 3-1 intact, to be honest. But all in all, Liverpool deserved that, and you know they'll be going into the break full of confidence again.
Why would you write off Liverpool? I mean, they've had a shocking start to the season by their standards, but you know, they're 7 points, you know, off, I think, with a game in hand of the top 4. You know, it's achievable for them, absolutely, in the second half of the season. Alisson has been brilliant. He's prevented, right? I was looking at this. The XG prevented, which is a measure of how many goals a goalkeeper has saved your team this season. He saved them just under 7 goals, according to our friends at Opta. That's more than any other keeper in the Premier League. So it could have been worse for Liverpool by now. I think that the fact that they're within touching distance is actually a huge relief and a big bonus for Jurgen Klopp, given how poor they've been. And yeah, when you think about Núñez and Salah coming into form now, maybe getting some of those other guys back from injury, they will be strong. I'm sure of it, and they can reel a few of the teams in, I think, that are in the current top 4, but they have to be better, a lot better.
Yeah, again, Jurgen Klopp might just welcome the break and give him a chance to work with some of those players like Mo Salah, who, of course, won't be a part of the World Cup party. Nathan Jones won't be in party mood after defeating his first game as Southampton manager. Tell us, Adrian, why you think this is a good appointment, because it has been mocked in quite a few quarters, actually.
Yeah, I don't think it should be mocked. I mean, well, time will tell if it's a good appointment. What I would say, I'm not going to sit here and say he's definitely going to be a roaring success at Southampton just because I used to play with him and he was my mate. I rate him. I think he's a really smart coach, deserves the opportunity. But from Southampton's point of view, it's a brave appointment, isn't it? It's a risky one because he's not got any experience at the highest level. He didn't as a player. As a coach, he's also worked exclusively in the EFL. So who knows how it's going to go. But he's got a great appetite for coaching. He wants to improve players. He is a smart tactician. He's not married to one style of play. He can tweak it. His first incarnation at Luton played some glorious football. Neat triangles, attack-minded stuff, sort of diamond system. He's moved away from that. This year's Luton were very direct. So he can adapt to the players that he's got. He's got a few promotions under his belt as a player. And as a manager, he took Luton up from League 2. He would have took them up from League 1 but if he hadn't have joined Stoke. So, yeah, I think he's got the tools, he's got the experience as a coach, I think, to do okay at Southampton. It's just, will the players listen? Will they take on board his messages? That's the trick, isn't it? And I think they will, but it might take a while to get to know him because he's quite a quirky character, infectious, busy, loves football. He won't stop talking. And not some of the players at the outset might think, oh, what's going on here? But I think once they get used to him, they will really like Nathan, and hopefully they'll respond well to his messages.
He gave one of the quotes of the season as well at his unveiling press conference last week down at the training ground, the Saints training ground in the New Forest. He described himself as a skinny Welsh rat-faced boy, which
I mean, he is, isn't he? Yeah,
that is fairly self-effacing. So, good luck to him. Okay, still 3 more games to look back on what was a brilliant weekend. Bournemouth 3, Everton 0. I was at the Vitality for talkSPORT. We talk about Bournemouth and what the future may mean now for Gary O'Neill in a moment. But Everton, they were dreadful, Darren Ambrose. 6 defeats in 8 games now for Frank Lampard. They picked up fewer points at this stage of the season than they did a year ago under Rafa Benitez, who was vilified and despised by the Everton fans. Are we thinking that Frank Lampard is under pressure?
I think in any other occasion you'd say yes. I think, like we said, unprecedented at the moment with the World Cup. I think he's going to be given a little bit of time. I think he's worked well in terms of getting everyone on board. Apart from the weekend, of course, where we see the unsavoury scenes towards the players and Frank Lampard himself. I think a little bit of naivety occurred in terms of the players. You need to read the room, really. You go over, you show your support. You're grateful for the supporters to be there, and then you just get off, and let the supporters make their way home. 2 trips to Bournemouth and getting battered both times is not a great look for Everton or Frank Lampard. To have the shirt thrown back at you in Iwobi's case, it's not a good look. But they're struggling. Of course they're struggling, but they've got good players, and I think they'll turn that around. Just need to be given a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, little bit of backing and support. I understand the supporters' frustrations because, like I said, long way to go to get beaten twice by 4-1 then 3-0 against Bournemouth. But I think he'll do enough this season and he'll have to build on that next season.
Yeah, I said at the start of the season that Everton were one of the teams I thought would be relegated. It was a bold call. I then apologised to Frank Lampard because actually I like some of their signings. They seem to hit a good run of form. That's deserted them now. Again, maybe he needed this break, but the worry is when Dominic Calvert-Lewin is not fit, where are the goals coming from? Neil Maupay was absolutely dismal at the Vitality, and I just think there's a little bit of a lack of character in this Everton side, and when the away fans start to turn, that's never a good sign for any manager. Who do we think will be the new manager at Bournemouth? They're going to make a permanent appointment, I understand, over the course of the next few days. Marcelo Bielsa very much in their thoughts. Gary O'Neill, the only other serious contender, having done what I think was an excellent job in interim charge. Do you think they'll go with Bielsa, the more glamorous appointment, or could they well stick with Gary O'Neill, Adrian?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be Bielsa. You saw Gary sort of applauding the fans at the end, and he was welling up, wasn't he? He looked very emotional. I think he feels that that's the end for him at Bournemouth, which is so harsh because I don't think he could have done a better job. Last 3 games, they've scored 8 goals. He's changed the mentality, hasn't he, at Bournemouth? Under Scott Parker, it was he didn't believe in the players. He didn't think they were good enough to go and attack matches in the Premier League. He was very cautious. And Gary O'Neill sort of flipped that around and made them believe that they can score goals and they can go and hurt these top-flight opponents. And they have, haven't they? On numerous occasions under Gary O'Neill. Okay, they've lost a few, but it's Bournemouth. They don't have as good a team as a lot of their opponents. So I think there's a really bright manager there. And if Bournemouth do go for Bielsa ahead of O'Neill, I get it. It's totally understandable. Bielsa has got a brilliant track record. But Gary O'Neill, I think, would be very high on the short list of so many jobs. So he doesn't need to worry at all, Gary O'Neill. He'll get work as a manager now. He's been excellent.
Yeah, he was quite open as well when I asked him about the Bielsa rumours after the game, and he spoke about his admiration for Bielsa, said if he does come in, I'm sure he'll do a great job. I just wonder if the emphatic nature of the win over Everton, the fact that players clearly are playing for Gary O'Neill, might just sway the new owner, Bill Foley, to stick with the former Portsmouth midfielder. We will find out, I'm sure, very shortly. It finished Nottingham Forest 1, Crystal Palace 0. The big talking point from this game, as well as Morgan Gibbs-White scoring the winner, Darren Ambrose, was your mate Wilf Zaha missing from the penalty spot. He's now missed 3 of his last 4 spot kicks. Do you need to drop him a text message and say, Wilf, let someone else have a go?
Well, he wouldn't be on him if I was still there, I'll tell you that. I'd be straight on him. But listen, we spoke to Wilf in the boot room, Crookie, last season, I think, and he said when Luka Milivojevic was the penalty taker, he'd always win them and he'd allow him to take them. And he thought, no, now's the time. I want to step up. I want to be the main man. I want to be the penalty taker. One of them that he missed was unlucky. He slipped over. That you can't help that, and it ended up going wide. This one was disappointing. He put it wide. He missed the target. And if the goalie saves it and it's a good penalty, you can accept that. If you miss the target, it's frustrating. But, you know, no doubt, once Palace get another penalty, Wilf will step up and take it again. And if he does, he'll score as well. Okay, he's missed a few, but he scored a few as well. He's the main man at Crystal Palace. And it was unfortunate. If that would have gone in, it would have been a different story. I think Palace were the better side. It would have been a different story. Palace would have won that game. But credit to Nottingham Forest. They needed the victory, and that moves them one step closer to getting out the bottom 3. But as I said, it could have quite easily gone the other way, and Palace could have walked away with the 3 points. Yeah,
I think the fact Forest have improved defensively, started to pick up a few wins, will probably worry a lot of teams down there, because maybe they were written off at the start of the season, but they are very much in with a shout for survival. West Ham in with a shout of survival. It seems ridiculous, doesn't it, to be talking about them in those terms. They were beaten 2-0 at home by Leicester. James Maddison crowning what's been a brilliant week with a goal. Hobbled off injured, fortunately. Nothing to suggest he won't be able to board that plane and be part of the England squad in Qatar. A lot of West Ham fans, Adrian Clarke, turning this weekend on David Moyes. Is that fair, or do they have short memories?
They have short memories, but this season West Ham have gone backwards. We can all see that, and I think that it's fair enough that he's under pressure. And I'll tell you partly why. I think that he's gone back to his cautious ways. Last season, West Ham were kind of a bold, more adventurous team. It was almost, like Moyes had thrown out some of the formula that he'd got stuck under for a number of years, and he went for it a little bit more, and they were great to watch. This season, they have wasted so many first halves by being defensive. Now, I've got a couple of numbers here. West Ham have scored 4 goals in the first half of matches this season. That's one every 169 minutes, or more pertinently, it's one first half goal pretty much every 4 first halves. So that's 3 blanks in 4. I mean, that's shocking. That is awful. If you're a West Ham fan, where's the team flying out of the blocks? Taking the fight to the opposition. They're not, and it puts you under pressure. Arsenal, I'll turn it back to Arsenal if you'll forgive me, but they've been fast starters, haven't they, this season? And if you score early goals, you can cling on to games, and it puts you in a position of strength. West Ham are chasing too many games, and that's a problem. And I think West Ham fans have got a right to be unhappy with what they've seen. I think Moyes deserves a little bit longer to turn it around, but I think it's fair enough he's under a bit of pressure.
Great stuff. Well, that's it for today. Big thanks to Darren Ambrose and to Adrian Clarke for coming off the subs bench. A reminder, we will be coming to you every single day from Qatar, starting next Sunday. It's going to be brilliant. Until then, goodbye.